My name's Rebecca Smith, and I'm a master's degree student at John F. Kennedy University. And through my work with clients, I've noticed a common theme of performance anxiety with potential clients of all kinds, including athletes, individuals in team sports, elite, non-elite, youth, adult, musicians, dancers, actors, academics, business. This is a broadly relatable topic that can be a valuable tool to introduce sports psychology concepts to an array of prospective clients. So it's important for us as practitioners to have a good handle on performance anxiety. Some important things to understand about performance anxiety are the difference between cognitive and somatic anxiety and state versus trait. Cognitive anxiety is the worries, the fear of failure, the overthinking, the self-doubt, whereas somatic anxiety is the actual physical symptoms of activation. And state anxiety is brought on by trait anxiety. Trait anxiety being the personality traits of someone who might just be a little bit more nervous in general, that will be more likely to feel the state of performance anxiety in a potentially stressful situation. Arousal, anxiety, and performance, all related. Arousal is the physiological and psychological intensity from sleep all the way up to intense excitement, whereas anxiety is a negative emotional state that's associated with arousal. So although they are very closely related at times, they're not the same thing. But along the lines of somatic anxiety and performance, the relationship is very similar to arousal in general, where very low arousal and very low somatic anxiety lead to weak performance, going up to about the 60 or 70% mark, the optimal arousal, optimal performance. It's the same for somatic anxiety and arousal, and then going off the other side, impaired performance because of strong anxiety or strong arousal, over arousal. And the relationship between cognitive anxiety and performance is a negative linear relationship, whereas the relationship between confidence and performance is a positive linear relationship. The experience of performance anxiety we're probably all familiar with, the fight or flight response. When something, a threat, whether a minor threat or a major threat, whether it's a roller coaster or being chased by a tiger, we all start to feel the same kinds of things: heart pounding, jittery, sweaty, butterflies in the stomach, maybe a little sweaty palms. And some of the negative effects that come in when this response kicks in are impairment to our processing efficiency, decreased attentional functioning, our motor performance is impaired, lower self-confidence, increasing self-doubt, negative thoughts. We tend to make more mistakes, and we're not as good at multitasking or switching between tasks. It can negatively influence motivational mechanisms, impair performance, and actually put us at a higher risk for physical injury. But the positive effects are that worry can lead to goal setting, motivating effort to avoid negative consequences. So if the tiger's chasing me, I have a moment to go, how am I going to handle this? And it motivates me to act quickly. What causes performance anxiety? One of the major causes is low levels of confidence. It's been shown that in elite performers, they report significantly greater levels of self-confidence, and they possess typically effective cognitive strategies for maintaining these confidence levels. So even if they start to notice the cognitive or somatic symptoms of anxiety, they have mental skills that they can implement to get back to that level of confidence that can help them perform at their best. Personality traits, we discussed briefly that somebody who's naturally lower in self-esteem, higher in neuroticism or introversion will probably have higher incidences of trait anxiety, leading to more state anxiety. So if we're faced with a client who's a little bit more nervous, it might take a little bit more work to get them to a point where they can be more confident under pressure. A lack of perceived control is another major cause. If an individual believes that he or she does not have the ability to handle the demands of the task at hand, they're going to feel more anxious. Another significant predictor of those traits that cause the negative anxiety symptoms is the motivational climate. If somebody is working to do their personal best, they're likely to be less anxious than if they are working toward a bar that's in comparison to someone else. And the threat of social evaluation, as it increases, performance anxiety also increases. And finally, a past performance experience can either cause or mitigate anxiety. If somebody is starting to feel anxious and they relate it to a positive experience, they're more likely to appraise it as positive. But if a past performance involved anxiety and didn't go so well, they're going to likely assume that they're not going to do well this time either. What helps mediate anxiety? Perceived control is one of the major factors in whether anxiety, both cognitive and somatic symptoms, are perceived as facilitative or debilitative. And this is across all performance arenas: academics, dancers, athletes, musicians, singers. In all domains, perceived control can help lead to positive directional interpretation, increase self-confidence, and a perception that performance will be enhanced. Now, different activities have different appraisals. So for a rugby player, higher somatic anxiety is seen as beneficial, whereas a golfer or someone involved in a fine motor skill activity like shooting, high somatic anxiety is less beneficial and could interfere with movement accuracy. There are different appraisals for generalized arousal. Low arousal can be seen either as relaxation on the positive side or boredom on the negative. And high arousal can be seen as excitement on the positive side or anxiety on the negative. Experience of anxiety and excitement are very similar. So when one person's going up a roller coaster, they might feel excited, feel their heartbeat, feel themselves getting sweaty and tense. Another person feels the same exact feelings, but associates it as negative. Because increased arousal is automatic in situations that there's a threat, attempts to suppress the anxiety and reappraise it as calmness are often ineffective, whereas reappraising as excitement has been proven to improve performance. One of the most powerful qualities of elite athletes is their self-confidence, which we discussed already. And when those anxiety symptoms come up, in somebody who's got the tools to deal with them properly, it brings about a renewed effort in response to anxiety arousal, bringing enhanced focus, persistence, and performance results. Now, here's where we come in. By helping teach our clients the coping strategies and mental skills they need, they can learn to control their pre-performance states in order to manipulate the cognitive and somatic symptoms individually to the desired optimal range. Things like goal setting, imagery, self-talk, positive self-statements, thought stopping, and pre-performance routines can all help the athletes to feel like they've got control. And when the somatic symptoms come up or the worries and the thoughts come up, they'll know that they have control because of the interventions that we've taught them. And the other mediators are motivational climate and the challenge skill balance, which leads to flow. The motivational climate is either ego-oriented or mastery task-oriented. When the environment revolves around besting and comparing, there's higher performance anxiety. When it revolves around self-improvement, task mastery, putting out the maximum effort, and persistence, leads to lower anxiety. And in order to get flow going, tasks should be moderately challenging. They should match the perceived skill level of the athlete, and having them go in with clear goals and giving immediate feedback can all facilitate flow, which is an incompatible state with performance anxiety. A study done by Hanton and Connaughton in 2002 showed the relationship between the perceived control of anxiety and self-confidence to performance in swimming. The bottom line is that when the symptoms, whether it's cognitive or somatic, are perceived as out of the performer's control, self-confidence decreases and performance suffers, and vice versa. This goes for both elite and sub-elite athletes. In another study, a series of experiments on high anxiety activities was done, including singing in front of a judge, public speaking, and a math test, which showed the power of self-statements in anxiety-creating situations. In each study, there were groups that were told to say certain things before they did each task. And the experiment group was told to both say and believe, "I'm excited." And across each of these 4 experiments, the group that said, "I'm excited," and was asked to try to believe it, performed significantly better than the control groups. So this shows that the simple intervention of saying, "I'm excited," actually has a huge benefit. So things like that we can teach our clients, like the power of self-statements, can really help getting over those humps where just the littlest shift of perspective can make all the difference. So the implications for our practice. First of all, stop telling people to relax. This is a big finding of one of the articles. If we're trying to shift a high arousal state to a low arousal state in a matter of minutes, it's not going to be possible or realistic. Instead, taking a high arousal state like anxiety and doing some simple mental interventions to shift it to excitement, which is also a compatible high arousal state, we can really make some differences for people. Sports psychology practitioners are really the solution to regaining the feeling of control over thoughts and feelings that could become detrimental to performance. But with just a little bit of a shift and a couple of skills and tools, we can make a big difference for these athletes and performers of all kinds. So instead of reducing anxiety, we work on increasing self-confidence, focus, motivation, task mastery, and goal setting to get our clients into flow. One of the biggest differences between success and failure at the elite performance level is not skill level, it's the effective management of thoughts and feelings before and during performance. And this goes for all performance arenas, not just sport. So knowing that performance anxiety is really the same, the antecedents, the mediators, and the solutions are the same in all arenas, gives us the power to help not just athletes, but performers of all kinds.